Syria, a land whose soil holds the echoes of empires, yet today, it's a place synonymous with war and displacement. But there's so much more to Syria than the headlines. This country's story is layered, ancient and modern, rich and tragic. And at the center of its modern history is a name that divides opinions: Bashar al-Assad. To some, he's a symbol of resistance against foreign meddling. To others, he's a dictator who will stop at nothing to hold on to power. Today, we'll explore the history of Syria, how it became what it is, the rise of the Assad dynasty, and the catastrophic war that changed everything. Let's start with geography. Syria's location made it the crossroads of empires. It connects Asia, Africa, and Europe, making it a hub for trade, conquest, and culture. Around 2500 BCE, the Kingdom of Ebla thrived in what is now northern Syria. Archaeologists unearthed thousands of clay tablets here, some of the oldest examples of written language. Nearby Mari was another key city, known for its advanced irrigation systems. During the Roman Empire, Syria was one of its wealthiest provinces. Palmyra became a dazzling city thanks to trade caravans moving silk and spices from the east to the Mediterranean. It wasn't just about wealth. This region became a melting pot of cultures: Greek, Roman, Persian, and later Islamic influences blended here. In 661 CE, Damascus became the capital of the Umayyad Caliphate, one of the largest empires in history. This made Syria the political and cultural heart of the Islamic world. But this golden age didn't last forever. Crusaders, Mongols, and eventually the Ottoman Empire took turns dominating Syria. By the 16th century, Syria was a province of the Ottoman Empire. For 400 years, it served as a vital link in the empire's vast trading network, but it was also a time of decline for local autonomy. In 1918, as World War I ended, Arab nationalists hoped Syria would become independent. But instead, the French took over under a League of Nations mandate. Syria's colonial experience was marked by rebellions, notably the Great Syrian Revolt of 1925. The French suppressed the uprising brutally, but the seeds of nationalism were planted. By 1946, after years of pressure, Syria finally gained independence. The early years of independence were chaotic. Between 1949 and 1970, Syria experienced 21 changes in government, including multiple coups. Amid this instability, the Ba'ath Party emerged in the 1950s. The Ba'ath Party promised Arab unity, socialism, and independence from Western powers. In 1963, they seized power in Syria. One of their rising stars was Hafez al-Assad, an ambitious Air Force officer. In 1970, Hafez staged the corrective revolution, consolidating power and becoming president. This wasn't just a political takeover, it was a reshaping of Syrian society. Hafez knew that to survive in Syria's diverse society, he had to centralize power. He built a regime based on loyalty, often favoring his Alawite sect. He also co-opted Sunni elites, ensuring they benefited economically as long as they didn't challenge his rule. But his reign wasn't without bloodshed. The 1982 Hama massacre showed how far Hafez would go to crush dissent. Islamist rebels tried to overthrow him, but his response, leveling parts of the city and killing tens of thousands, sent a clear message: dissent would not be tolerated. Hafez built a legacy of control and fear. When he died in 2000, his son Bashar was expected to continue this legacy, but few predicted what would come next. Bashar al-Assad wasn't supposed to rule Syria. His older brother, Basil, was the heir apparent, charismatic and military trained. Bashar, by contrast, was shy and academic. He studied ophthalmology in London, seemingly far from the world of politics. But when Basil died in a car crash, everything changed. Hafez began grooming Bashar, teaching him the art of maintaining power in a country as complex as Syria. When Bashar took power, there was a sense of hope. He spoke about modernization, technology, and reform. He even allowed political discussions during the Damascus Spring. a brief period where intellectuals debated the future of Syria. But the old guard of the Ba'ath Party grew uneasy. Too much reform, they feared, could destabilize the system Hafez had built. By 2001, the Damascus Spring was over, dissidents were jailed, and the Muqaba'a cracked down on opposition. Still, Bashar tried to project an image of progress. He liberalized parts of the economy, inviting foreign investment and opening up telecommunications. But this modernization benefited only a small elite, while rural areas were left behind. Discontent simmered beneath the surface. In early 2011, the Arab Spring sparked a wave of uprisings across the Middle East. In Syria, the spark came in the city of Daraa. Schoolboys had written anti-government graffiti, and the regime's response was brutal: arrests, torture, and deaths. Peaceful protests erupted nationwide. Syrians demanded democracy, dignity, and an end to corruption. But the Assad regime saw this as an existential threat. Security forces opened fire on demonstrators, and the cycle of violence began. By late 2011, some protesters had taken up arms, forming the Free Syrian Army. But the opposition was fractured, with various groups emerging, from secular Democrats to Islamist factions. The regime responded with overwhelming force. Airstrikes, chemical weapons, and starvation sieges became common tactics. Cities like Aleppo, Homs, and eastern Ghouta turned into battlegrounds. The toll was staggering: over 500,000 dead and millions displaced. Entire generations lost their homes, families, and futures. Syria's war became a proxy war, drawing in global powers. Each had its own interests. Russia, longtime ally of Syria. Russia saw the war as an opportunity to expand its influence. Russian airstrikes targeted rebels, often indiscriminately, killing thousands of civilians. Iran. For Tehran, Syria was crucial to maintaining its axis of resistance against Israel and Saudi Arabia. Iranian militias, including Hezbollah, played a key role in Assad's survival. Turkey. Initially supporting the rebels, Turkey shifted focus to fighting Kurdish groups near its border, fearing their push for autonomy. The US focused on defeating ISIS, working with Kurdish forces in northern Syria but avoiding direct confrontation with Assad. The result was a fragmented Syria, where no single group could claim victory, and the suffering of ordinary Syrians intensified. Just days ago, on December 6th, 2024, the Assad regime, which had ruled Syria with an iron grip for over 5 decades, collapsed. This monumental event was set into motion by a coordinated and unexpected offensive by Syrian rebel factions, led predominantly by Hayat Tahrir al-Sham, ATS. Within days, these forces captured Aleppo and Hama, key strongholds that had previously symbolized the regime's resilience. Damascus soon fell, marking the end of an era. The collapse of Assad's regime is deeply rooted in years of mounting economic crises, international isolation, and diminishing support from traditional allies. Iran and Russia, once stalwart backers, had been weakened by their own challenges. Russia's prolonged involvement in Ukraine and Iran's deteriorating regional influence. These vulnerabilities, combined with growing discontent among the Syrian populace, created an environment ripe for rebellion. Observers point to Assad's failure to implement reforms and his ongoing reliance on authoritarian measures as catalysts for his downfall. By refusing to engage meaningfully in UN-led peace initiatives and suppressing political dissent, Assad alienated not only his citizens but also many within his own ranks. Reports suggest a significant number of defections from the Syrian military in the days leading up to the rebellion, indicating fractures within his support base. International reactions have been mixed. The United States has urged calm and emphasized the need for a political solution to prevent a power vacuum, while regional actors like Turkey and Israel are bracing for the fallout. Meanwhile, Russian warships have reportedly vacated their naval base in Tartus, signaling a retreat that underscores Moscow's waning influence in Syria. The situation remains fluid, with concerns about potential infighting among rebel factions and the risk of extremist groups exploiting the chaos.